TV series called 7th Street Theater.
It's different. It's not necessarily the
And providentially on.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Arias Wicker with Christian Movie Connect. Today you'll have the opportunity to meet Bobby Downs, producer of Like Dandelion Dust. Well, Bobby, tell us a little bit about your latest movie, Like Dandelion Dust.
It's a movie based on a novel by author Karen Kingsbury, and it stars Mira Sorvino, Academy Award winner, and Barry Pepper, who was in the movie True Grit recently. And it's a movie that's won over 30 international film festivals.
Okay, so it is out on DVD now, so for people that want to get a copy.
It's available for download on iTunes and Amazon and everywhere, Walmart. Yeah.
Now, you did have a limited theatrical release on that. How did that go?
It was in over 50 markets on 150 screens, and was very successful. And for a limited independent release, we're excited about it. It had a lot of people really impacted by the film.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a really big deal even for any kind of a Christian film to make it to theaters. So, you're definitely to be commended on that. So, tell me what you think about, why you chose to do this script. And I know that you've done several movies based on novels.
Yeah, Karen Kingsbury is prolific. She has over 50 novels that she's written, and she sold over 20 million books. And so really we start with the material, and because she's a Christian author, that really begins to shape who the movie's being made for. And then as soon as we assign a cast to it, then it really begins to add more shape and color to really what the film's going to be about and what the scope of the film is. And Karen Kingsbury's readers are rabid. They love her books, and it was really the first book of hers to be adapted to a film. And so we took great care in trying to understand who Karen's readers are, what her characters are, and we really feel like Dandelion Dust is a movie that's has quintessential Karen Kingsbury characters.
So you were able to pull in her audience pretty well then?
Yeah, and one of the things her audience and her readership says to us is that Karen Kingsbury's characters are like real people. They're like your neighbor, like Karen Kingsbury was reading their mail. And so it was really important for us to have characters that conveyed a sense of authenticity and realness to them. And I think that's what causes the film to really ring true with audiences everywhere, whether they're Christian or not, is that this movie rings true to the human condition. And I think that's why in the film festival circuit, when we took us an entire year running it through film festivals around the world, it was winning awards and really resonating with people everywhere.
Well, the story revolves around adoption. That's part of the storyline. So were you able to maybe tie in with some organizations dealing with adoption?
It was really challenging because the subject matter was about, what would you do to save the life of your son or daughter? And put in that position, if your child was adopted and going to be taken away from you, would you run? Would you challenge the system? What would you do? And that's one of the greatest fears that prospective adoptive parents have is, will the birth parents come after my child and take them away? And will I love this child like they're my own? And those two great fears are what adoption organizations don't want to confront. They want to not address that issue publicly or allow people to form their own opinion. And so in making the movie and releasing it, that was a real challenge, getting support from adoption communities. Even though adoptive parents loved this movie because it reflected the fears and concerns that they had. And the movie really breathed and lived those scenarios out in a way that struck a chord with people.
Tell me, what is your philosophy for choosing a film and what the projects you decide to work on?
That's a good question. We first look at a project by the type of story that it is, We like to use books and like to do true stories as well, but we take a look at what the scope of the story, what type of story. And some stories are made to be movies of the week. Some of them are made to be straight to DVD, whereas other stories have a bigger scope to them and more complex storytelling in a way that we think that would appeal to a wider audience. And so, and all of that goes into the planning. The end product. You think about the end product first, and then you work backwards and reverse engineer the movie.
Well, you do a lot of speaking in different festivals and conventions to filmmakers. What advice would you give to a filmmaker who's wanting to get into Christian film or just films of value?
Know who you are and know what you really think about who God is, because if you're going to be in the creative aspect, that begins to come out and seep out through the kinds of characters and the stories that you tell. And then know who your audience is and match up your desires with who you think God is and who you think, what kind of stories you want to tell with the type of audience that you want to reach. And then once you determine what your audience is, that will determine what the budget should be and what kind of distribution it should be and how the story should be told. And so often we get scripts or get stories or pitched about ideas, and the artist hasn't thought through all of those other aspects first. They're just mainly concerned about, this is my script or idea and I want to do something with it. And that's really one of the things that you do kind of in the middle of the process, not at the beginning.
Well, a lot of times people think of movie making as just entertainment, but it's also a business. And having been in the movie business for this many years, what advice would you give as far as lessons that you've learned?
It is a business, and 90% of producing films is doing paperwork and dealing with the legal aspect of it. And so I think that's one of the bigger lessons learned is to be schooled in the legal process and the contracts and agreements that exist, and understanding the distribution systems. Another interesting thing that I learned, critical thing within the first 2 years, was to not abdicate roles to other people and think that they're going to be taken care of. And whether it's in the marketing of your movie, whether it's in the distribution of your movie, or whether it's in the creative process of the movie, you still need to have your hands on the wheel and work collaboratively with all of those groups. But to think that you could just abdicate it to somebody and then close your eyes and walk away is unrealistic, and really could be damaging business-wise to your business and to the movie itself.
Do you have another project that you're working on?
Yeah, we're adapting another novel by author Karen Kingsbury called 1,000 Tomorrows, and we're excited about it. We hope to be filming it this year and hope to have it released next year sometime.
Okay, in theaters?
In theaters in a big way, yeah.
Hi, very good. We'll bring that one to Monroe,
Okay.
Louisiana, where I live.
You bet.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome.
Thanks for tuning in to another edition of Christian Movie Connect. We'll see you next week.